All right, let's walk through these next 6 problems on the back of the sheet that I did before. Okay, so starting out with number 7. Bianca received her cell phone bill in the mail. Her plan has a monthly fee of $29.95. She pays 10 cents per text message after that, and her cell phone bill last month was $73.15. How many text messages did she send? Okay, so this is a problem where we are given a total amount, okay, right? It doesn't say the word total, but oftentimes when you see a total, that's going to be your biggest number. Not all the time, so you do have to use the context clues, but um, this sentence, her cell phone bill last month was 73.15, right? It would make sense that that's a total, okay? So we said that total amounts for this type of word problem go on the right side of the equal sign. Okay, so we're kind of piecing together a puzzle. We're not putting it together right in order, but it's helpful to start with this total because it gives us a little bit of structure to start with. Um, and then again, a big question is, what is that unknown amount? What don't I know in this scenario? And I don't know how many text messages she sent, right? That's the question it's asking at the end. So that's going to be what X represents here. That's my the symbol or letter that I use for my unknown amount. So that's going to be the number of texts that she sent. It says her plan has a monthly fee of $29.95. Again, that's just a flat fee. It doesn't matter how many texts she sends. That's going to be that fee that is um, charged to her no matter what. So $29.95 is going to be part of that total, okay? But then we're going to add the charges that she got for the number of text messages that she sent, okay? And again, we don't know how many texts she sent. That's my unknown. But I do know that she pays 10 cents per text, right? So depending on if she sends 50 or 100 or however many text messages, she pays 10 cents for each text message. So for each extra text message she sends, that's an extra 10 cents on her bill, okay? So I would represent that with 10 cents or 0.10x because it's 10 cents times the number of texts that she sends. Okay? And so that's the hard part, the setup. And now I can solve this puppy like a normal equation. So I'm going to subtract that constant from the one side with the x because I'm trying to get the x by itself. So it's 29.95 from both sides. I do that and I'm left with, I don't have enough room, so I'll go 10 cents times x equals 73.15 minus 29.95, 43.20. Okay, and now I'm going to divide both sides by 10 cents to get that x by itself. So divide both sides by 10 cents. So 43.2 divided by 0.1 ends up equaling 432. Just move that decimal place over 1. And so she, in the context of the message, how many texts did she send? I just found that. She sent 432 text messages. Awesome. So that is that number 7. Okay, number 9. Ms. Workman is renting a bus for a field trip. The bus rental is $240. Cost $24 per hour for the bus driver, and the total cost was $384. How many hours was the field trip? Okay, now this one is more like number 7, where we are told a total, right, 384, and we are told an hourly charge plus kind of an extra fee, okay? And so hopefully at this point, you know the pattern, you're able to see, right, my total goes on the right, 384 is my total, right? My unknown amount is going to be associated with my x. That's going to be the number of hours they were on the field trip, is my x. And that is associated with this 24 per hour charge for the bus driver, right? So it's going to be 24x, right? And then that rental cost, so that's going to be 24 plus 240 equals that 384 total. And so now I begin to solve this guy, minus 240 minus 240 to account for that hourly charge being subtracted from the total, or sorry, the fee, not hourly charge, subtracted from the total. So 384 minus 240 equals 144. So 24x equals 144. And then I divide both sides by 24. And so again, you can use calculator, but x equals 6 hours. 6 hours. And again, I know it's 6 hours, not $6, because I said x represents the number of hours. And then these 10, 11, and 12 are also going to be different, but these are similar to each other, but they're going to be different than 7, 8, 9. Number 10, Primo and Joycey both worked at ice cream shops during the summertime. Primo makes $8 per hour, and Joycey makes $7.50 per hour. One week, Primo earned $80 in tips, and Joycey earned $95 in tips. They both made the same amount of money. How many hours did they work? Okay, now notice this doesn't give you like a total. Like they both made this much money. What we're assuming is they also, it doesn't state this, but it also, we're going to assume that they must have worked the same amount of hours. That says they made the same amount of money, which is helpful to know, but we also want to know how many hours, and that's going to be the same as well. What we want to figure out is when Primo's amount of money, or how many hours, when can Primo's amount of money equal Joycey's amount of money that they earned? We're going to set these two equal to each other, okay? And so we need to associate, there's two amounts associated with each person, right? Their hourly rate that they're paid, and then the amount they earned in tips, okay? So Primo makes $8 per hour, and then $80 in tips, it says in the line below that about him. So again, in hours, every time I see hours, or like per hour or for each hour, that's going to have an X with it, right? So when I see this $8 per hour, it's going to have 8X, okay? 8X, and then Primo also earned $80 in tips. That doesn't have to do with how many hours you worked. Somebody could have just given you $80 and then you don't get any tips the rest of the time. And then Joycey, same thing, $7.50 per hour. So that'd be $7.50x plus her tip amount, which is 95. And so again, I'm wondering how, like they made the same amount of money and they worked the same amount of hours. How can that work? Well, so I want to set Primo's expression equal to Joycey's expression. So that's going to be 8x plus 80, Primo's amount, equals 750x plus 95, Joycey's amount. Okay? And so I do that, and now I'm going to begin to solve this. I'm going to do minus 750 from both sides, cancel out one of my x's. So I do that, and I get 0.5x plus 80 equals 95. And then I am going to, right, this is the x I want to get by itself. So I'm going to minus 80 from both sides. And I get 0.5x on the left equals 15. 95 minus 80, 15. And then I divide both sides by that 0.5 to get the x by itself. And 15 divided by 0.5 ends up being 30. And what is x? X represents the number of hours, because that's what it's asking for. So that would be they worked 30 hours. Okay? If they both worked 30 hours, they both will have made the same amount of money. And it doesn't ask, we could calculate then how much money they both made. And it should be equal to each other. But it's not asking that. It's just asking how many hours. So we answered the question. We're good there. All right, next one. Albert and Kevin are both waiters. One week, they both made the same amount of money and worked the same amount of hours. Hey, same situation, but it tells us that clearly. Great. Albert earns $6 per hour. Kevin has more experience and earns $8 per hour. Okay, good job, Kevin. Albert earned 160 in tips, and Kevin earned 110 in tips. So even though he's more experienced, he's obviously not doing as good of a job because he's making less in tips. So step it up, Kev. Come on. How many hours did they work? Okay, again, same scenario, very similar to the one up above. Okay, so same setup. We're wondering how many hours did they work if they made the same amount of money? So when will Albert equal Kevin's amount? Okay, so let's set that up. Same thing. Albert makes $6 per hour. Again, how many hours? So anytime I see per hour, it's going to have an X with it. So 6x, and then his 160 in tips. And then Kevin earned $8 per hour and 110 in tips. So 8x plus 110 Again, I'm not given a total here. And so, again, same amount of money, worked the same amount of hours. How many hours did they work? So we can set them equal to each other, and that will tell us, okay, that unknown amount, that has to be the same for both. So it's going to be 6x plus 160 equals 8x plus 110. Okay, and I do that, and now I have variables on both sides. So I'm going to minus 8x from both sides, and I get negative 2x plus 160 equals 110. There's my x, so I want to get that by itself, so I minus 160 from both sides, and I get negative 2x equals negative 50. And you might be thinking, oh, those negatives, that's not realistic. But don't worry, they're going to cancel each other right here. So negative 50 divided by negative 2, and that equals positive 25. And again, what is that? That's the amount of hours that they work. That's the unknown. So 25 hours is the amount that they worked. And a good check, again, that is realistic. 25 hours in a week is realistic. All right, last one. Mr. Hoshi is renting a warehouse to make gloves to sell in the wintertime. Very smart. The warehouse costs $4,000 to rent. Holy cow. The gloves cost $850 per pair to make. Mr. Hoshi will sell the gloves for $1350 a pair. Again, it tells us that's income. And it says, how many pair of gloves will Mr. Hoshi have to sell to break even? Okay, it's going to be a similar setup to these two, except it's not comparing two different people. It's comparing when will Mr. Hoshi's costs equal his income, right? And if Mr. Hoshi is a businessman like he is, making these gloves, he wants to figure this out. So he can figure out how many pair of gloves do I need so I can cancel out this big warehouse fee that I have, okay? And so that's what I have to do. I have to sort out these amounts, and I have to say, is that money that Mr. Hoshi is spending, right, or a cost to him, or is it amount that he's receiving, or an income for him? Okay, so first one, it costs $4,000 to rent. Didn't mean to cross that. $4,000 to rent, and so that is going to be a cost to him, right? And then the gloves cost, right? It's helpful when it says the word right in there, right? Cost $850 per pair to make. And again, it's how many pairs of gloves is our unknown amount. That's what it's asking for. So anytime I see that per pair, it's going to have an X with it, okay? So those are both costs, right? It tells us cost. So if I put those on the cost side, 4,000 plus 850x, there it is. Those will both be costs. And then it makes it clear for me here as well that 1350 per pair, 1350 is income. That's how much he is selling them for. So 1350x on the right. Okay. And again, it has an X with it because it does say people are paying him 1350 per pair. For each pair that he sells, he makes 1350. Okay. So there's my setup, and now I solve. Okay, again, my constant's already over here, so I'm going to cancel out this 850x by subtracting. I do that, and I get 4,000 equals 1350 minus 850 is just a straight up 5. Very good. And then I divide by 5, so x equals 800. 800. So what is that? It's $800? No, it's 800. Again, tie it with your question. So how many pairs of gloves? X equals 800. 800 pairs of gloves. So Mr. Hoshi is going to have to go crazy with selling these gloves. But thankfully, he's selling them in the wintertime when you need gloves, so that's smart.